Hello and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords. My name is Katherine. I am the podcast host of Chakras and Cusswords, and I consider myself an alchemist. I concentrate on everything energy, especially the chakra energy, astrological energy, and just having good conversations with like a lot of amazing guests. I'm so happy you are here. And today's episode is all about the astrology dates for the month of April. Like, I cannot fucking believe it's already April. Like, where did March go? How is time just literally flying by? And it almost feels like we are time traveling, right? This is going by so fast. It's literally just boom, boom, next month, the next month, the next month. I mean, it's like amazing. I'm just like, completely flabbergasted that we are already in April. I feel like just literally last month we were entering a new year. Like we were in January and now we're already in April. Wow. Okay, so let's do a little recap of all the astrology that kind of took place for March, because March was super dynamic. It was a very dynamic month. There was a lot of transition. There was a lot of stories kind of breaking in the media. It was just a time that seemed like, it was intense. It was very kind of like intense. And I know I felt that energy. Did you? Let me know in the comments, or let me know if you kind of felt the same way. But I just felt like March was just a month that had a lot of transitions astrologically and also definitely like here in the US. So let's get into it. So the beginning of March was, the big talk of entering Aries season. And then also we had that area of Saturn entering Pisces, and then we had Pluto entering Aquarius, and then the last astrological event, which actually happened today. I'm actually recording this on March 25th, and it's about 13:16. For those who know military time, and for those who don't, it's about 1:16 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it just seems like, in all honesty, it's just been a lot. And when we think about what March really is like telling us, it's like telling us it's the new entryway, right? This is the entryway to transformation. This is the entryway of acquiring more knowledge. This is the entryway of new growth and new beginnings, especially there with Aries season and the start of the new astrological calendar. Everybody who's been listening already knows kind of how I feel about this Saturn entering Pisces. I feel like there's going to be a lot of dynamic on the spiritual essence of like the whole individual, right? And a lot of us are going to be reflecting on our boundaries and areas of restriction, especially when it comes with like religion and maybe our spiritual awakening or spiritual process. And I feel like we're kind of like already seeing this, right? It seems like people are definitely shifting towards a new traditional sense, even when the traditional sense is a trajectory of something more than what we are used to, right? Because let's be honest, modern astrology and modern astrological learnings aren't necessarily what was the tradition for most people. It's kind of like the traditional set was always very religious based and very centered on kind of like what the home was doing, or that area of just the home and family unit, where now it seems like people are kind of breaking away from the church or breaking away from certain religious collectives and are trying to find their own, right? Trying to find their own thinking process. Like, what do they think versus what has been laid in front of them? So we have that. And then we also have the Pluto in Aquarius, which was a big deal. And I mean, the Pluto and Aquarius transit that we had in March, we're not going to see the full aspect of it anytime soon, right? I mean, yes, we are in critical degrees right now as we have Pluto just entering Aquarius. So we're like at 0 degrees and it's starting to make that involvement, but we're really not going to see it until maybe like 10, 5, or we're going to see bits and pieces. And then when we finally get to the 20-year mark, we're going to be like totally astonished about how much has changed with the age of Aquarius, Pluto entering Aquarius, and this whole dynamic. I've already kind of spoke about how I think there's going to be a lot of change with technology. I think technology is just going to keep advancing. I mean, that's what it's going to do. I also think that there's going to be a lot of areas of censorship. We're already seeing it, especially like with TikTok, social media, areas with like content creators, and conspiracy theorists, right? And we can all believe what we want, but the thing is, like, we should be able to like share our message as long as it's not harming anybody. And I feel like once it starts to get into that area of like conspiracy theorists where it's like, is this a theory that could potentially bring other people harm, or is this just something that I want to share light on? And as like a content creator and somebody who speaks about a lot of different things, I do feel like you do have to have like some responsibilities when it comes to that, right? And you do have to have that energy that's aligned in the crown chakra where you're like, it's not meant to be excessive. It's just supposed to be where I'm trusting my decisions and sharing this information with others. If they accept to receive it, that's fine. If they don't, then, that's cool as well, right? I do think that we are going to see a huge shift with social media, especially like the way people use social media. I'll be honest, I mean, I am a person who kind of like posts a lot on social media, but I kind of feel like I want to break away from it. And I've been wanting to kind of break away from it sometime. I'm more of a poster. I'm like that person who just posts versus that person who does continuous scrolling. I watch documentaries, I watch vlogs, I watch, stuff like that, but I'm not just like scrolling mindlessly. I'm just kind of either posting or I'm watching something and then that's it. But I do feel like the Facebook era, I barely go on there except for my Facebook page, and that's just a post. And then Instagram is such, I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram. I like to kind of see what my friends are doing, but then I feel like it's a very just toxic and it's so easy to spend like hours on there and like TikTok, right? And it's just like I should be doing other things, or I should be with other people in this moment versus being on social media. So I totally get it. And I think most of the collective is going to kind of break away from social media as a whole, because the social media apps are struggling. And I think they are going to continue to struggle, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, unless you are becoming a content creator or somebody who is trying to get your message out, or somebody who is, creating content for other people to engage in. So we're going to see, and then this whole TikTok ban, it's kind of funny that this entered right around the time that we have the Gemini losing Mars, right? And now we have that area of Mars going into Cancer, which Cancer is all about our emotions. And it's also that fifth house that feels very tied into protection, like protection of the home, the children, the feminine. So this is, and they use the whole data breach, or because the Chinese, founders of TikTok. So they're like, it's all, data and privacy related. But I also feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that they aren't able to make money from it, like they are with Facebook, Meta, and Instagram. I also feel like there's definitely some dynamics with freedom of speech, and the way that people use TikTok is very different than the way people use like Instagram. And it's just very funny that, they're so worried about like the children who are consuming TikTok versus like the children who are on Snapchat, who are like finding fentanyl on, fake fentanyl on Snapchat. So it's very ironic that they choose just to basically go after TikTok, which has a CEO in the US. And I doubt that, the Chinese spies really care like which mom on the block has the best TikTok dance moves. I mean, in all honesty, I hate to say this, but most Americans aren't that fucking interesting. I know I'm not that interesting. Like, you want to see what I'm looking at? Okay. How to make a chicken pot pie. Like, get the fuck out of here. I just think it's for other reasons. But let's get into the astrology dates for April, okay? So that was just kind of a little back reflection of everything that happened in March that had some sort of importance, right? Some sort of area towards the astrological events. But let's get into April, because April's a different month, right? It's a different month. We should be centered around our intentions, especially as we have the beginning of this month before we move into that shadowy season of eclipse season. Eclipse season, oh no. Okay, so let's get into it. So the beginning of the month of April feels like a lot of areas of focus, especially when we are like doing this check off of where we want to be, and where we see our collective, also where we see focus on items and materialization. I do think with April, we're definitely going to see a different dynamic. It's going to feel a little bit less intrusive, and it's also going to feel a little bit more where we want to be practical with certain things, and we definitely want to be practical with our spending, and definitely start saving money, especially if like you're going on a trip. Some of the days I really want to talk about is April 3rd, we have Mercury enters Taurus. And this is definitely that time where we're going to want to get the logistics down. Like, get the logistics down in our energy, in our time, in our space, and in our roots of where we are feeling fully centered. The next date we have is the full moon in Libra. And this is a beautiful time to really celebrate that illumination of love, celebrate that inner like Libra energy of balance and boundaries, and also becoming okay with saying like, no, I can't. Sometimes seems very hard for many of us, but being okay with just owning that like no factor, no, and really having it kind of become a harmony with how we feel, and how we tend to be centered in our love for life, and even like if we're going through a bad breakup, or we're going through some areas of transformation where it just feels like there can't be anything better, or there can't be anything else to do, or it just feels like very hard. And sometimes with life, we get these very hard obstacles, and we get these very unpleasing moments. But just remind ourselves that love is all around us, and having that love is all within us because we share that love. And sometimes it's not so much about us always receiving it back, but sometimes it's also about us releasing it back. Like sometimes for some of us, we feel like, the world wouldn't miss us, right? And life would go on, but so many people would miss you and miss that message that you bring and miss that love that you share with them. So just give your area of illumination towards the love of life and towards that area of having that collective circle, if it's like your home or if it's even your work life. Like I've talked to people who are like getting ready to retire or who have retired, and it's like some of them really enjoyed like working and really enjoyed spending time with other people like outside of the home and having that physical and social aspect about life, even though it was centered around work, right? But so give yourself that area to enjoy that illumination. For a full moon in Libra, I would be centered more on self-care, areas of self, and also areas of gratitude, of giving to others. So if you are able to give to somebody else, you should during this full moon time. Also, it would be a beautiful time to like find a new book in like poetry, or find something that was maybe like an art piece or something that was tied into a simple but luxurious thing that not only you enjoyed, but maybe you can give to somebody else. And definitely have that we factor, that unity factor with this full moon. For April 10th, we have Venus enters Gemini. And I feel like that beautiful aspect of the Gemini, just that communication, that area of the throat chakra, that area of creation of a duality is such a beautiful thing, especially when we think of the Gemini and having that kind of unfold and what it really stands for, of like that spring energy is very uplifting. I think Geminis are some of the most amazing zodiacs. They're very intellectual. They have this piece that is almost like a simple resemblance of like something that reminds me of like a big theatrical performance and like everything they do. And then to be centered with Venus just really makes it feel like a uplifting and very loving and lovely moment. I think with this transition, there's definitely going to be a lot of people wanting to communicate a little bit more, and also a lot of people maybe getting into like wanting to express themselves. And that could be, setting up a blog, that could be communicating in the relationship, definitely. And also maybe starting your own podcast, right? But there's definitely ways that you can find that lovely flirtatious energy that Venus holds with Gemini. And also really not being scared to express yourself. And sometimes that's like really hard, not to have that nervous feeling of expression. And I think when we think about it, we always think like expression comes in the form of like social media or putting yourself out there, but not necessarily. Especially with this Venus and Gemini, it's not necessarily has to be centered around that social media aspect. It could be expressing yourself in your home, expressing yourself in work. It could be expressing yourself with your own interpersonal style of fashion. It could be expressing yourself in many ways. It's not necessarily creating a TikTok or creating like a Instagram reel or something like that. It's expressing yourself in your own way. It could be so many possibilities. Also, I think with this Venus in Gemini area, that this is a perfect time to socialize with people that maybe you've never met, kind of get out there, meet some new people, get out there and express yourself and let people see you. It is a very fun, that is a very fun transit when we think about it. Also, what makes this really interesting is come on the 11th, we have Venus in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius, and the Sun in Aries conjuncts Jupiter in Aries. So if this energy of just Venus in Gemini alone doesn't speak that expansion to you, this is definitely where we are going to want to boost that transition, make some change on the social areas, also like on the mindset area too, right? And really take it into an area where we're growing, right? We have that Aries element of that spontaneous fire, that vivacious energy of starting something new, combined with Jupiter in Aries of expansion and getting kind of like lucky, right? So this is like a lucky time to really get out there and have fun. So it looks like we have Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd. I think I talked about that, right? And then we have Vesta enters Taurus on April 15th. And we also have on April 19th, we have the Sun enters Taurus. But right before then, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And this is our first. This is our first like new moon energy. This is our first area of transition towards that new moon growth factor of an eclipse, where we're dipping into our shadow state, where we're dipping into our area of finding what it all means for releasing the shadow. Like when we are in shadow season and when we are in eclipse season, I won't say to never create an intention, right? But we want to be mindful with our intentions. And this is also like a time that we want to reflect, and definitely reflect in that shadow element of ourselves. And sometimes it just seems very challenging. I know for me, anytime I think of reflecting with my shadow and reflecting of my shadow traits and that area of shadow, it's like, it's challenging. It is really challenging to have to look at some of the things that we possess in our own energy that kind of are like our own downfalls, our own toxicities, and our own areas where we know we should probably let go of that trait, or we should clear that energy, like say goodbye to it. But man, it's a challenge, and especially when we've grown up in places, or we've grown up like with times that all we know is the shadow. And I think about like times that I've been super depressed, and growing up like with a chronic medical condition at an early age. Like I'm very blessed I wasn't like super in and out of the hospital, and I wasn't always in the hospital, but I did go to the hospital once a year for my annual checkup, and I did have a lot of depression as a young teen and also as a young adult, especially as a young mom. And just recently, I started experiencing a little bit more of like medical stuff where it was really like affecting me mentally, emotionally, and like spiritually. And it just was very like I just felt like I had to do something so I don't get into that downward spiral where I was already seeing like the certain, I guess almost like the certain things that I would do before. I was seeing them coming back up again. I was starting to have these like feelings of the why me, and for people who have like chronic health concerns and health conditions, sometimes that's very hard, right? Is to get out of that why me, right? Who knows why? because sometimes shit just happens and people are born with stuff or people inherit stuff and it just fucking happens, right? It's just fucking there. There is no explanation. Sometimes we get rolled the fucking bad dice, somebody might say, or the bad hand, right? And it took a lot. And I'm still something that I'm working with, right? Getting older and having a heart condition is I've definitely seen a change physically, mentally and emotionally as well, but also like with female issues as well. I don't know if it's hormones, but just having to be put on medications and taken off of medications and seeing no improvement, then even feeling worse. It's just been a fucking cycle. And when we have this new moon solar eclipse, like it's okay for us to establish what it is that we want to clear away in our shadow space, what it is that we want to relieve ourselves from, because sometimes we put on a lot of that own energy towards ourselves because we start to get into this space where the shadow kind of feels comfortable sometimes. It's cool, it's cool. It's not hot. It's not very spontaneous. And you could get very comfortable in that shadow space. You could get very comfortable in that area of traits that aren't necessarily where you want to be focused at, but it is an easy area to be. So definitely establish your own path, establish your own wisdom, because this is happening in Aries. So Aries is still responsible for new growth in that new area of the new zodiac, the first zodiac, that cardinal energy. So it is okay to reflect on the shadow, but also like say, I'm going to make steps to change this part. I'm going to make steps to clear away some of these feelings and clear away that area. And just be kind to yourself. Sometimes it's very hard to be kind to yourself. And I know that because it's something that is hard for me at times. So just try to be kind to yourself, and try to be kind to others, especially with this new moon and solar eclipse transitioning into the start of the new season with Taurus, because then on the following day we have the sun enters Taurus on the 20th, and then we have a big intense energy in many aspects, because we have literally back to back, we have the sun in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius. And that day, I feel like it's going to be very challenging for many people. Very challenging because I feel like there's going to be this energy that's going to want to like conflict and like square off with each other, especially square off with like higher almost like higher, like mindsets, higher areas of our own where it feels like anytime we think of the Aquarius, we think of like something that's kind of in that 11th house element where it's like the collective shift. So it might be, might be the day that they say they're banning TikTok. Like, it might be just like that energy where everything doesn't feel aligned. Everything's just not going your way. You don't understand it. You just kind of want to fight back. You have that your frustrations down in the ground, and it's like you can't move your feet to like shake it off, but you're just saying like, so be mindful with that. Don't go around cursing the boss. Don't, try to understand that energy is just kind of making its ways, and like roots are still there. And sometimes when those roots aren't cleared, we still feel that energy where we just want to say, Also, the following day on April 21st, we have Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus. So this is the start of retrograde season. So that's why we want to get like our intentions. We want to get our start of our alignment right before that first eclipse. Yes. And this is the time we're reflecting. This is the time we're letting go. This is the time we're saying, hey, things are just a little slower. Maybe I just want to cozy up with a blanket and some Haagen-Dazs. Like, we're not going to be hard on ourselves. Maybe this is just the energy that is kind of coming back up and saying like, hey, remember me? It's your good friend Mercury, and I'm going retrograde to fuck everything up. I feel like with this alignment, we're going to see it more in areas of not so much with communication, but also areas kind of like on the market, like financially. And also we're going to see a little bit more transition where it's almost like a area where people are becoming more challenging against leadership, wherever leadership is, right? Whatever your insight of leadership is, if it's the government, if it's your boss, if it's like your, I hope it's not your partner, if it's just that area of leadership where people are kind of like challenging, questioning, and kind of not really agreeing. And I think we're going to see that dynamic, especially with this retrograde season. Also, this is the perfect time to let go of situations that aren't serving us. And we'll probably see it during this retrograde, and hopefully we see it while we are doing our shadow work right around the first day of the new moon. So it's going to be a different type of energy versus what we were in March, definitely. Also, one other day that I really want to talk about, just to kind of, give us some hope that everything's not as bad as we want, right? Like sometimes we get in that state of mind where things aren't going our way, and then we just get in this cycle where we're like, everything's so horrible, everything's so bad, but we're healthy for the most part, right? We're healthy, we're very blessed with that. We're very blessed with people around us. We're very blessed with our energy of finding and learning and seeking and becoming wiser. We're also blessed with love and fortune of being able to pick ourselves up. And I think sometimes when we are in this space of where it does feel like a domino effect, and everything that could go wrong went wrong, and now it's just continuing, that we kind of have to remind ourselves that we're very kind of lucky and we are blessed. And sometimes it may not feel like it, but we're here, and this is a journey, and this is a pathway for many of us as people who are trying to share the message to the collective, or people who are ready to receive the message, or people who are ready to release the message and use it, right? So just take this time to respect and embrace the energy that we still have and the energy that we still are focused with in areas of alignment and also with love, because love is really, I think, the main reason that most of us are here is to share love and to share inspiration and to share moments. So on April 23rd and 25th and 29th, we have some beautiful sextiles. We have Mercury in Taurus sextiles with Mars in Cancer. So definitely diving deep into those conversations and diving into that area of feeling good and warmed with like your loved one, and especially spending time together on the emotional aspect, but also on the communicative, where you're building those roots to be centered with each other and building those roots towards like a new purpose or a area where it's like a foundation building. And then we have Sun in Taurus sextiles Saturn in Pisces. So this is also a beautiful day to create intentions or create areas where you're just feeling happy to be around each other, right? Happy to be in that place where you can go somewhere, maybe do a hike if the weather allows it. Maybe do that area where you're just hanging out, maybe watching documentaries or new movies and taking in that time. Also, it's a beautiful time for meditation and starting a dream journal on a consistent level. I really want to get into the dream interpretations for the podcast, and also a little bit more of learning of the actual astrological energy. So many of you could read your own birth charts. So many of you understand each house, like doing episodes on astrology, like the sun, the moon, all the planets, and also the houses, the degrees, and the zodiacs. So I definitely want to get into that more with this podcast. So I'm probably going to not have so many guests on, because I'm going to be trying to record on a more independent structure, so I can give that knowledge to you guys. Also, we have Mars in Cancer sextiles Uranus in Taurus. Uranus. And that's really like a lucky aspect, right? With everything around us of motivation and remaining centered in where we are in our path. Sometimes it's like okay to enjoy where we're at. It's like okay to be like, I don't need to change anything. I don't need to do anything new. I just need to enjoy this moment. I just need to enjoy this time. So I want to thank everybody who listened to the astrological dates for April. And please like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast. And everybody have an amazing month of April. Bye.